Hey everyone, this is Ethan. It is really, really late at night already. Well, not really, really late at night, but like 12:30. And unfortunately, there was a lot of chaos today, which I had to deal with. So this came out a little bit late, but that's okay, because now I'm doing the Falcons. And after this public service announcement, I will start. What I want to say is that, of course, the 28th pick overall was granted to the New England Patriots. That was where they finished in the standings. But I've already done the Patriots in the series. Did them a long time ago. So tomorrow I will be doing the team that traded their pick to the Patriots at 17, the Oakland Raiders. We will talk all about triangle guys, and it will be fun because it's fun to talk about guys who have height, weight, speed. And Al Davis is fun to talk about because he's crazy. In terms of when I'm going to do the Dolphins video, the Detroit video, of course, is now out. The Dolphins video is going to be redone hopefully Thursday. I want to say either Thursday or Friday. Thursday, I'm also going to be doing a mock on the air, actually on the radio. I'm going to be representing the Houston Texans, which will be great. I'll have more information on that on Twitter. So at Ethan Ham, you'll get all the information that you could possibly want on that, including a link to the radio show and all that great stuff. I will say that right now the guy who I'm thinking about giving to Houston may not have been the person who I said in my Houston video they would take. Anyway, going back to Atlanta. And of course, Atlanta, I have to hit everything perfectly because if I don't, my new boss, Scott, will kill me and fire me. So, I don't want to say anything wrong. So I'm going to be very careful here. So, looking at Atlanta, Thomas Dimitroff, and by the way, that was a joke. I love Scott. He's great. Great boss. And really, really smart. Now I'm just sucking up. Thomas Dimitroff is the best GM ever. See, I'm good at that. Thomas Dimitroff, of course, came from the Patriots stock, so he's brought that sort of Patriots style of drafting and building a team with him to Atlanta. And he has a really good track record so far. He's really taken that team from the depths to something greater. And honestly, I think that that division, the NFC South, is going to be the best division in football in 2 years. Once Carolina gets a quarterback, that division is going to have 4 teams that could go over 500 in any other division. Heck, they could probably win 5 of the other 8 divisions once Carolina gets a workable quarterback. I'm that confident in Ron Rivera. B, I think Carolina is that good on defense, or has that sort of potential on defense. So I think that what Dimitrov has done is great. He's really taken guys who were maybe a bit niche oriented in college and really brought them and given them a space in the pros. I think that's an interesting misconception with Patriots drafting that also falls into Atlanta and Kansas City. Versatility is definitely crucial for the Patriots, but also, and the Falcons by proxy. But also, I think that players who fill a certain niche are just as crucial. It's sort of like a weird combination between guys who can do many things and guys who can do one thing really, really well. So I think that's something to think about with Atlanta. Atlanta's also a bit, in recent years, they've been a little bit easier to project than some other teams because they tend to focus on certain positions and there even may be a certain player that they're zeroing in on with their pick. Now, I definitely think it's possible that they trade up this year, sort of like what happened with Sam Baker when they took Matt Ryan a couple of years ago. They got him the bookend. But the position that I think they're looking for right now is defensive end, and that seems to be the consensus in general. Now, the one defensive end who I think that I've heard the most buzz about and also makes the most sense for them is Justin Houston out of Georgia. Of course, local guy. They've taken a lot of Georgia guys in the past. They like the area. They like taking Southern talent. And honestly, he fits what they want to do pretty well. I actually think that Justin Houston's a little bit overrated. I think that he'll get drafted pretty well for his skill set in the middle of the first round, but I don't see the suddenness. I don't see great athleticism when I see Justin Houston. When I watched some tape on him recently, thanks to Aaron Aloysius, by the way, it was very average. He was setting the edge pretty well against the run, which I guess is important out of a left end, but I don't think he can be a right end at the next level. Then again, I don't know if Atlanta really needs a right end that badly. They do, but maybe with Houston, they'll either work on his explosiveness or they'll rotate him with Bierman and Abraham if they really need a pass rush. If they want a little bit more of an explosive guy, possibly a guy like Brooks Reed would be a really interesting pick late in the round. I think he's a definite possibility. He has a lot of what they look for in defensive ends, and he sort of seems like the high character guy that Dimitrov would like. Because as I said, Mark Dominic in Tampa is the anti-Dimitrov. Dimitrov loves character. He's definitely born the mold of the Gene Smith, Rick Smith. They will maybe, if a guy doesn't need to be like pristine, maybe later in the draft, but definitely it's plus. Torrey Smith is another player who makes a lot of sense, but I am mocking him higher than a lot of other people right now because I really think that a team that also has a general manager of Patriots descent, the Kansas City Chiefs, are going to really like Torrey Smith. So I also think that Torrey Smith being drafted by Kansas City could precipitate a trade up by Atlanta to get Justin Houston because he may be 1B or 1A on their board, with Smith as sort of the other component. So I think that's something interesting to look out for because it definitely makes sense that defensive end or wide receiver would be sort of their focus. I think defensive end may be a little bit more than wide receiver. I definitely keep it there. And also keep it to the guys who they've brought in for visits. Defensive ends, they've seen basically all the main ones for visits. Wide receivers, they've been a little bit more exclusive. Leonard Hankerson is a big one that they have seen. Another guy who I think is a little bit more likely in the mid-rounds is Jarrell Jernigan, who reminds me a lot of Harry Douglas and would be a perfect fit on that team. He is the best after-catch receiver that I have seen in college in the past 5 years. What he does after he has the ball in his hands is absolutely ridiculous. I don't know if he's exactly the vertical threat that they may be looking for, that maybe a Torrey Smith would give them, but he has some special ability after the catch, which is really nice to see. And he could be a really good fit in the offensive scheme that the Falcons run. Another guy who could be a little bit better later in the draft, Denarius Moore, would be interesting. In terms of running backs, one guy that actually Scott ran past me on Twitter, and I'll mention him because Scott did run past me, is Derek Locke out of Kentucky. And I think that's definitely viable. I'm not 100% sure, though, just because with the Patriots background, it seems like a Mario Fannin might be a slightly more viable pick, the guy out of Auburn, because since Dimitrov is a Belichick disciple, Belichick loves big backs. Even though Locke would fill a niche that maybe like a Danny Woodhead type would fill in New England, if they think Locke is special, they'll definitely will not hesitate to pick him. And he is fast and he has a lot of potential as a pass catching back, so it's definitely possible. Fannin would be interesting, though, seems a little bit more viable, and he can do a lot of what Locke does, except he's bigger, and he can pass protect, which is always a plus. So there are some other guys who they could take as well. I think they might get a backup outside linebacker later in the draft. They seem pretty set on the offensive line, but they could possibly use, if another weapon is in a tight end, maybe a big body at that position later in the draft, like a Lance Kendricks as a receiving type, sort of like a slash guy to rotate in with Gonzalez, because Gonzalez was average last year, even though he got a Pro Bowl. So overall, with the Falcons, keep an eye on the visits, play it by ear, and see what happens with them, because they have a lot of variability. So tonight, that's done, and it's not too late. Tomorrow, do the Raiders, and I will talk to y'all soon.